In today's space news, strap in, this is going to be a long one. Boeing Starliner CFT is on day 64, and its ongoing delay is starting to cause other flights to get pushed back. In spite of the fact that NASA still has not announced a return date, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams are preparing Calypso for the return after a successful hot-fire thruster test on Saturday, July 27th. The final results of the test have not been released yet, but we do know via a blog post that the thruster test was ground-commanded, and each of the 27 thrusters that were tested were fired sequentially. The aft thrusters were fired for 1.2 seconds, and the others fired for 0.4 of a second. Peak thrust of each thruster was between 97 and 102%. According to Boeing, the helium system, quote, remained stable, end quote, but it's not exactly clear what that means. We know that at least 2 of the helium manifolds were leaking previously, and part of Saturday's test was to check the leak rates and to see if it was within a particular safety margin. Meanwhile, the crew has been preparing the spacecraft for return by refilling the water tanks from the ISS supply and performing a visual inspection of the outside of the spacecraft via the Canadarm. On July 30th, Starliner 1 crew members Scott Tingle and Mike Fink ran undocking simulations from Boeing Mission Simulator with Mission Control at Houston MCC and Boeing MCC at Kennedy. Wilmore and Williams monitored the sims from orbit. Additionally, over the last several weeks, the following things have been going on. About 100,000 computer model simulations of undocking, deorbit, and reentry, 18 runs over 230 hours of testing at the Avionics and Software Integration Lab, 3 backup control reentry runs by Butch Wilmore using the onboard crew training simulator. For those of you who don't remember Orbital Flight Test 2 in 2022, Starliner went to the ISS, docked, and then returned 6 days later, all under automated computer control. So you might be asking yourself, why not just send the crew home on Dragon and let the spacecraft try an automated return without Wilmore and Williams? It can't. Ars Technica has learned from 3 well-placed sources the automated return software was not installed on Calypso, potentially to streamline the software package. This was hinted at by the head of NASA's Commercial Crew Program, Steve Stitch, during a press conference I covered earlier, when he said the crew is integral to the spacecraft. According to sources, the process of updating the software is non-trivial and could take up to a month, and until that update gets pushed or NASA clears the spacecraft to leave with its original crew, everyone that arrived on the American side of the International Space Station, Dragon Crew 8 and Starliner CFT alike, is stuck there. And it's not because of the FAA grounding of Falcon 9 last month. The Falcon returned to service on July 25th and has performed several flights since then, including putting the glitchy cargo vessel Cygnus NG-21 into orbit on August 4th. According to William Harwood, CBS News space correspondent, the cargo run included research gear, hardware, spacewalk equipment, computer components, fresh fruit and vegetables, coffee, and crew supplies, including clothing and personal items for Wilmore and Williams. The Falcon 9 performed as expected. However, some unknown issues occurred with the Cygnus spacecraft. Cygnus normally performs several burns that bring it within 30 feet of the International Space Station, after which the ISS crew uses the Canadarm2 robotic arm to berth it with the space station. However, the first 2 burns did not occur as planned because of, quote, a late entry to burn sequencing, end quote, which was not explained by Northrop Grumman. Northrop Grumman fixed the issue, and the spacecraft was captured by the ISS arm at 3:11 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday and has started to be unloaded. The Falcon 9 Crew 9 Dragon flight, scheduled for August 18th, has been pushed back more than a month to September 24th, and it's for the dumbest reason. Starliner Calypso is in its parking space. There are 2 docking ports at the International Space Station compatible with spacecraft flying for the Commercial Crew Program, and both of them are on the American end of the station. One of them has the Crew 8 Dragon, and the other has Starliner Calypso. As previously reported, Boeing presented a flight rationale report to NASA, but NASA engineers don't seem convinced that the causes of the thruster failure have been definitively identified, or that NASA engineers have successfully mitigated against a catastrophic failure that could result in the loss of the spacecraft, or worse, a collision with the International Space Station. On top of that, NASA doesn't know whether to send a standard crew of 4 on the Crew 9 Dragon flight, or to only send 2 astronauts, presumably so that there are seats free for the Calypso crew. There are internal disagreements within NASA on whether it's safe for the Starliner to return with the crew, or whether it's even safe to attempt to let it leave on automated control. There are also worries that an improperly designed undocking software could brick the docking port, making it impossible for replacement crews to come on board from the American side. More updates are due to come in the next 2 days and weeks. This is obviously a fast-moving story, especially as we get closer to a decision. In Atlas V news, the last U.S. Defense Department flight of the Atlas V launched on Monday, July 29, 2024. This marks the 58th national defense launch with this launch system and the 101st flight of the Delta V. United Launch Alliance's Russian-based engine supplier NPO Energomash was forced to end export of the RD-80 following the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Ars Technica says ULA has enough engines to supply 15 more Delta flights, which will probably last the rest of the 2020s. After that, ULA will have to have completed the transition to their new Vulcan rocket, which was delayed for several years due to issues with the BE-4 engine made by Blue Origin. Vulcan launched for the first time in January and is expected to have its second flight in September. The DoD may then certify Vulcan for defense launches. For more space news like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.